Welcome to ILTV Security Brief. I'm Caleb Ben David. Each week we focus on the latest developments in security and defense relating to Israel and the Middle East, impacting on this region and beyond. And we start with our top items of the past week. The Houthis confirmed that Prime Minister Ahmed al-Rahawi was killed in an Israeli airstrike on Sana'a that eliminated or wounded several other top government officials. The Iran-backed rebels vowed to take revenge for his death, which came in response to their launching of a cluster bomb missile against Israel. Israeli security sources say an airstrike on Gaza City targeted and may have taken out Hamas spokesman Abu Obaida, as a terror group confirms its leader, Mohammed Sinwar, was killed by Israel back in May. Reserve Sergeant First Class Ariel Lubliner is killed in southern Gaza in a likely friendly fire incident. He's the 900th soldier to fall in Israel's multi-front war since October 7th. The IDF and Shin Bet, in a special operation, recovered the body of two Israelis from Gaza. Ilan Weiss, a resident of Kibbutz Be'eri, who was killed in the October 7th attack, and Idan Shtivi, a photographer murdered by terrorists while attending the Nova Music Festival. The UN Security Council votes to end the mandate of UNIFIL, the UN peacekeeping forces in South Lebanon, at the end of this year, concluding its nearly 50-year mission. Israel has long charged that UNIFIL failed in its role to keep Hezbollah forces from the border area, a task that will now be handed over to the Lebanese army. This is the IDF strikes targets in South Lebanon of the Hezbollah military infrastructure. Another big story, the Israeli takeover of Gaza City, the last Hamas stronghold in the Strip, is now underway. The IDF has designated Gaza City officially as a dangerous combat zone as troops advance into and seize its outlying neighborhoods and begin to move the civilian population in these areas southwards. Airstrikes on the city have reportedly now taken out Abu Obaida, the Hamas spokesman, and a prominent figure of the terror group. But questions remain whether the IDF should now try to leverage these gains into a new hostage release and ceasefire deal, even a partial one, a position some top security officials are said to favor. And if Israel does proceed with the offensive, what comes next after Gaza City is taken? Well, for more on these and other issues, we are joined by Reserves Brigadier General Harel Knafo, who now serves on the advisory board for the Israel Defense and Security Forum, known in Israel as the Bitchonistim. Harel, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
And of course, you also served as the Chief of Staff for Southern Command, which is going to be responsible for really overseeing the details of that move into Gaza City. What does that involve? How challenging is that for the IDF now?
I think it's less challenging than it was at the beginning. At the beginning, we really not feared, but we really didn't know if we'll succeed to do things inside those streets, because it's a very tough streets and beneath the ground, you know, all the tunnels and everything. But apparently, at the first time we saw it wasn't so bad. And I think we achieved a lot in Gaza City before. But we, as you know, when come the deals to release the hostages, we pulled out and we stayed out all this time. And we can say that the Hamas built himself again in some of the places. I would say that now it's his biggest compound, biggest military area that he have. You have another one, a little one, more little in Khan Yunis and a bit in the rest of the area between Khan Yunis and the sea. But the Gaza is the heart of what he has now. Mm-hmm. And I think it will take a few weeks to take it over, to take it out, to take all of him out of there, not more than that. Of course, he's organized, and we have casualties, but it will not be like we had at the first time that we got in. We have to do it. We have to do it because if we will not do it, Hamas will remain.
Nevertheless, there are those, of course, the hostage families and supporters and others who believe that now this should be leveraged into making a deal rather than moving ahead with this operation. And there are even some in the security establishment who make that case. What do you say to them?
I would say that I think it can't be done without the military forces to get inside Gaza City. Because the Hamas is playing, it played all the way, but now, we had two big objectives in this war. One toward the Hamas, of course, not the rest of the things that we have. One of them was to destroy Hamas, to take them down. The military forces, the governing forces that he have, all of this to take this down. And the second one is to bring back the hostages. Each time that we have ability to get more close in this objective, we done it. And we pushed, and we took Rafah, and we took Bet Hanun, and we took other places. And when we couldn't, because something else happened in Lebanon or with Iran on those things, we stopped, and we did kind of a deal. And meanwhile, we took Hezbollah out, we took Iran out, and we continue. We continue, and we released more than 80% of the hostages, live and dead, 148 alive, and the rest of them, we brought their bodies back to Israel. So now we are in a point that we cannot continue with this game anymore. We have to bring it to the end. And to the end, if tomorrow Hamas will say, we are going out abroad, we are not staying in Gaza.
And releasing all the hostages.
And release all the hostages, please go out of Gaza. I believe that's what the Israeli Prime Minister and the government will do. But he will not say it. Hamas wants to stay in Gaza as a ruler, as offender, as a very bad regime for his own people. You saw what he did on those 2 years. He finished them. Gaza will never come again to be like we saw it, like we gave it to them. We gave it to them
to the Palestinians
almost 20 years ago. All built, everything was okay. We went out. We said, try to be the Middle East Singapore, and they became the Middle East refugee camp because they decided to attack us, not to build their nation.
Right. Now, Harel, you say IDF troops in a matter of weeks have the capability to take control of Gaza City. But there is another element in this equation, and that is moving as much of the civilian population in Gaza City out to minimize both their casualties and the humanitarian situation there, move them into the southern part of the Gaza Strip. That seems to me to be the more complicated part, and the part that is Israel maybe even sensitive about, because we even see the U.S., even President Trump, expressing concern on that. Is the IDF going to be able to handle that situation? How much are they going to be able to do that?
In this war, we already done it once, and they all moved to the south. I wouldn't say that this time it will be the same, because we have less tools to bring them the news or bring them the orders, how to go, where to go, and everything, because you know that the communication there is not so good, the phones doesn't work so well, so we will have to do it mainly by leaflets and
leaflets dropped from airplanes and helicopters,
and by the forces on the ground that will shout on megaphone, go here and there.
Right.
So this is the one problem that we have. The second problem, it's the most. I think the Hamas will fight with his own population not to go out, because it's his own last resort.
Right. We actually did see that even earlier on in North Gaza. At one point, Hamas fighters shooting on civilians heading south. And you think we're going to see that even more so now?
I think we will see it, and I think it will become even worse. They will kill civilians who are going out of Gaza because he wants them as a shield. And if they are going, there is no shield.
Right.
And the third thing is that you have to convince them to go out, and you will have to do it by supplying somewhere else all the things that they need, and stop doing it in Gaza City.
Right.
So it's also an issue. It's issue for the world. It's issue for the United States. It's issue for many people who doesn't really understand what we are dealing with now. So we have to do all step by step. I think it already started, but the real result we will see when the troops will come and start to get in, and then you will see more of the people afraid of the troops more than they are afraid from the Hamas, and they will go out.
Right. Again, the IDF has the military capability to take Gaza City, but if it should get delayed, if because of either casualties or other things, it goes beyond a few weeks, and there were people who already were initially saying a couple of months, we see it looks like President Trump, the U.S., is, I wouldn't say getting impatient, but seem to be putting more pressure on Israel to speed that process. How confident are you Israel will have at least the backing of its only real ally left now, the U.S., to complete the mission in Gaza, if it bogs down?
I think that every time that we needed the support of the U.S., we got it. Even in Biden time, much less than in Trump time, of course, but even in when you succeed in what you're doing, when you have a success in what you're doing, everyone is joining. You saw it also in Iran. United States stayed in readiness, and they wanted to see how we succeed. And when we saw we had a full success of what we do,
taking out their air defense systems.
They gave the cherry for the pie at the end and penetrate all those bunkers. So it will happen here again. If Israel will do the operation smoothly in the beginning for 3 or 4 weeks to gain control on Gaza City, not clear all the places that you need to clear, but the penetration will be okay, I think the United States will say, well, finish the work. If this stage will take weeks, United States will not have this much patience for what we're doing. That's why the IDF should be very strict, very full-minded to win this operation, and I think it will be okay.
Right. You mentioned Iran. I want to turn to one of its proxies in the region, the Houthis. Even as we're speaking today, the Israeli cabinet had to hold the meeting not in the prime minister's office, but in an undisclosed secure location because the concern, as we said, the Houthis may retaliate for the Israeli airstrikes in Sana'a that took out basically the entire cabinet of the Houthis. But is that going to be enough to deter the Houthis? It seems in the past it hasn't. And if so, what more is Israel? What more can Israel even do to deter them from moving forward?
The Houthis start the war in Israel when we didn't have too much information about the Houthis, because they weren't our real enemy. It was the enemy of the world. They control the Red Sea, so they have capabilities against the rest of the world, less than doing something to Israel.
Right, it was Saudi Arabia that was their main enemy.
I know, Saudi Arabia and other places. They shot Emirates. They shot many countries, but they weren't the first enemy of Israel.
Right.
That's why we didn't have too much information. And you could see on those 2 years how much we progressed during the time.
Right.
At the beginning, we bombed only the things that you can see by satellites, by those things. But now we have much better intelligence, to take out all those people, all this regime. During the time that they are hearing a speech of their head.
Yeah, their leader,
It's something that nobody does it before, and we did it twice. We did it with Hezbollah, with Nasrallah, and now we are doing it here. It's the best information there is, and I think with time to come, we will have better and better information how to fight them. Anyway, they will continue to fight here and there. 1 more missile, 2 more missiles, we can deal with it. It's not a real threat on us, not a big threat on us. So we will continue to have intelligence, and we will topple them down meter by meter. The government didn't say we want to topple the regime there, but they will do all it's necessary to reduce their power. And I think it's good for Israel, but it's the best for the world.
Right.
The world will continue to, I read last week that the Egyptians said they lost $30 billion because the ships cannot go to Suez Canal.
Right.
So actually we are helping the Egyptians, and we are helping Europe. We are helping anyone who uses the Suez Canal. So I think that all of them should support Israel much more in their fighting, not only against the Houthis, all over.
All right, well, we'll see if that ever develops. But Brigadier General Harel Knafo of the Bitchonis team, thank you for joining us on Security Brief.
Thank you very much.
And now moving on. The German Air Force last week signed a deal to buy $415 million worth of the Lightning V advanced targeting system for its fighter jets from Israel's Rafael Defense Technology Company. That's news in itself, but even more so when you consider that just days before that, the German government announced it was suspending the licensing of arms sales from that country to Israel in response to the Gaza war. These juxtaposed headlines highlight a bigger story, that even as several nations move to limit or ban the sale of arms to Israel, the export of Israeli weapons and military technology abroad is booming, reaching a record $14.8 billion in 2024. For more on this, we are joined by Anna Aronheim, the defense and tech editor at the Jerusalem Post. Anna, thank you for joining us. First of all,
hi, thank you for having me.
So how do you explain it? On one hand, you have these countries saying we're going to limit or ban arms sales to Israel. On the other hand, Israeli arms sales abroad to some of these even same countries in Germany are booming. How to explain this?
Well, exactly like you said, the weapons are being banned for Israel, but Israel can still export their weaponry to countries like Germany. Israel technology is known for being very advanced, very precise, and wanted around the world. This contract, I'm sure, was discussed and signed weeks, if not months, if not even years before this announcement was made. So that's one issue, is that if a contract is signed, it's very hard to stop that sort of deal. And on the other hand, the export of weapons to Israel, with Germany announcing that, it's a bit worrisome because it makes you want to think what other countries are going to follow suit. We haven't heard any others at the moment, but will that then affect defense exports from Israel to other countries? We have yet to see that.
Well, let me ask you, because as I said, we've yet to see it in defense, and these exports are moving along almost at a record pace. But we do see, for example, Israeli defense companies facing bans at some of these shows, like in France. Now we had in Britain, the Israeli government was not allowed to have a display at a defense fair in UK. How much does that impact on the Israeli defense industry?
It definitely has an impact. Regarding DSCI in the UK, Israeli companies are still able to come and show their technology, such as Rafael and Elbit and IAI, except Israeli military officials and Israeli government officials. They have been blocked from attending the show. And that's why the defense ministry has said, we are not going to set up a pavilion. In France, a few months ago, Israeli companies were allowed to participate, but yet the morning of the exhibition, black tarps were thrown above all of the Israeli exhibitions, and they were blocked. And it's kind of pathetic in a way, because you still have countries like Russia and Iran showing off their arms at these defense weapons exhibitions, and Israel, who is fighting on several different fronts and showing how good their technology is not allowed. In France, it was sort of a political, sort of a business issue, where France doesn't want Israeli companies to compete against French companies because French companies have shown that their technology is just not as good as Israeli technology. As you can see in what happened in India, where Pakistan shot down French-made Rafale jets, Israeli weaponry not allowed to be shown. So on the one hand, it's a pathetic decision by these governments to stop Israeli weapons from being shown at these exhibitions. On the other hand, Israeli companies are still able to get the deal signed. They're still able to go to meetings in all of these countries. They don't have to be at those defense exhibitions, but it does give them a boost in sales.
Right, and I guess I'll just conclude by saying maybe the best advertising for Israeli arms and defense technology is it's being proven on the battlefield constantly in the past couple of years. Anna Aronheim of the Jerusalem Post, thank you so much for joining us on Security Brief.
Thank you.
And now a final word. Russia's invasion of Ukraine seems to have finally awakened Western Europe to the true threat posed to it by Vladimir Putin's regime. This comes after years in which Russia continually tested the resolve of Europe's leading nations, conducting blatant espionage operations, including the assassination of prominent Russian dissenters on their soil, undermining their social cohesion and democratic institutions through disinformation, cyber warfare, having fighter jets, submarines, and naval ships make deliberate incursions into their airspace and sea borders, and trying to extend Moscow's hegemonic reach right up to EU and NATO borders, culminating, of course, in the war on Ukraine. European states, especially the big three of Germany, France, and the UK, have seemingly emerged from a post-Cold War slumber to realize that Putin's desire to resurrect the Soviet Union poses a genuine threat to their sovereignty. And a recent turn to isolationism in the U.S. has made them realize it is up to themselves first and foremost to secure a firm line of defense against Moscow's expansionist aims. But there is another country that has acted in a similarly provocative manner against European interests, and that country is Iran. Tehran has also planned and carried out violent covert actions against opponents of the mullah's regime within Europe, as well as terror attacks directed against Israelis and Jews there. And when its agents were apprehended, the regime made bogus arrests of European citizens within Iran to blackmail those countries into prisoner exchanges. Iran's hate-filled propaganda campaign against Western values has served to incite the Muslim communities within Europe to extremism. And its regional proxies have sought to establish Iranian control over nations sitting directly on NATO and Mediterranean borders. And they've also directly attacked European interests, such as the Houthis' campaign against international shipping passing off of Yemeni waters. But most of all, Iran has pursued the acquisition of nuclear weapons that would make it not just an existential threat to Israel and give it the power to intimidate its regional neighbors, but make it a viable military threat against the continental Europe within the reach of its missile arsenal. Last week, nearly 6 years after Iran began to breach the limits of nuclear enrichment and development set by the now-defunct JCPOA agreement, the E3 began the process of reinstituting the so-called snapback sanctions that were lifted when the deal first went into effect in 2015. Alas, the E3, after months of futile diplomacy, has once again given Iran another grace period, this one of 30 days, to reach another negotiated nuclear agreement. It's time for Europe to toughen up on Iran, to enforce stricter terms on enrichment than the previous deal, and to include limits on Tehran's ballistic missile program, as well as demands that Iran and its proxies cease their provocative actions in and against other nations. And finally, it is no coincidence that Iranian-made drones are helping to fuel Russia's attempted conquest of Ukraine, as both nations are united in their contempt of Europe's democratic values and desire to see its nations under the thumb of their intimidating influence. Europe may be finally standing up to the snarling Russian bear of Vladimir Putin. It is well past time that it shows the same fortitude when dealing with the treacherous Iranian snake of the venomous rule of the Ayatollahs. Thank you for joining us on ILTV Security Brief.